What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Rip City Real Talk. Anthony Blaylock, Craig Moshkow. Man, I'm excited to have some alone time with you again. We've just been swamped with special guests. We're getting really, really popular now. Kind of a big deal on the in the Blazer world. We got 14 Twitter followers, like up +3 from where we were before. So, yeah, things are going pretty good, man. How are you?
It's great. Everything's going well. It's been kind of a busy week in Blazerland, and there's a lot going on right now. So we kind of have a big pod, but we love viewer questions. I think one thing we've been looking for on socials, on Twitter especially, go ahead and hit us up with questions if there's anything you feel like you want to get answered, whether it be rotation, minutes, scheme, whatever. We're really looking forward to more questions from the fans. So go ahead and hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, Rip City Real Talk.
Yeah, for sure, guys. We appreciate the support so far. Definitely reach out. We got different platforms, doing different contests throughout the year for different platforms. So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to YouTube. And again, we're still working on the audio piece of the podcast. Try to get it on probably Apple Music. So we'll let you guys know. There'll be some kind of an announcement when that happens. So.
Yeah, and last time we were here, we were with Dia for over an hour, and we spoke a lot about just what we expected at the trade deadline, and we'll get into what moves went down and didn't go down, and we'll kind of go through that on this pod. But where we left off last week, we talked about the Mavericks, and we had a back-to-back with them. We expected to kind of win one, lose one, and guess what happened?
Won one, lost one.
Yeah, I think it happened in reverse order. I think we won the first game, which I thought we might struggle in, and then the second game, they just I don't know how to explain it. They kind of went nuclear.
Worst loss of the year, man. Worst loss of the year.
Yeah.
40 points. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad from any standard at this point. But
it was rough. Defensively, I thought we just didn't look locked in, and maybe it was tired legs, or maybe it was I don't know what it was, but it just looked tired.
Yeah, I thought we'd win the first one personally, and I thought we'd lose the second one, just because of adjustments that get made. But even with adjustments being made, like, you don't lose by 40. I think they just got up and they just didn't let off, and we mentally got checked out of that game in the third quarter and never really got a chance to fight back. There was never a close run, nothing to really kind of get behind for the guys to get back at it. So that was definitely disappointing. But either way, the Mavericks are a playoff team right now. They're a playoff team in the West. So you split a series essentially with them right now. And the important thing, the big thing to take away out of those two games, most importantly, is that we won this series. The first game gave us the 2-1 series on them. So come tiebreaker time,
we own it.
That's a big deal. That's going to be a big deal down the road for us with a pretty good lead already in the conference.
I didn't even really think about tiebreaker with them, but it could come down to it because they're starting to get healthy and Dallas is playing a lot better. I think they're at the point in their season where they know it's desperation time. So I think that it's very fair to say that we could be near the play-in with them, 6-7 or 7-8, whatever it may be. So we go on. I was fine with the Dallas thing. We understand that when you play a team twice, we always say on the podcast, It's hard to beat a team twice. The one that really bothered me, and we're going to get into that next, is this Nets game because KD and Kyrie were both out for that. Harden was questionable going into the game, and then he got cleared.
Neck soreness. Yeah,
neck soreness. And Harden, it was like playing those old Houston teams Harden was on. It was mostly the Harden show. There was a few little contributions from other people, but when it comes right down to it, we still really struggled to bottle him up and contain him. What were you expecting going into that Nets game?
Better than that. I mean, I'm glad they kept it close, but it's like you kind of said, it reminded me of a Houston team. It really wasn't different. He was doing everything that he normally does. He gets other guys involved. He draws the fouls. He's just tough offensively to guard. I mean, everybody that tried to guard him got into foul trouble. Jones, Trent. I mean, it was just a carousel of fouls whenever somebody got on him. The supporting cast, that's what's disappointing. No Dinwiddie, no Kyrie, no KD, no Shamet, I think is how you say his name. Like, they had a lot of their guards out. I think Bruce Brown was out there. They had some guys that just, you think that you need to take advantage of. But
Jeff Green, Joe Harris, and Luau Cabarro played a lot of minutes. And then Claxton played really well for them in that game. He was great. He only played 22 minutes, but he had 16 points and 9 rebounds in 22 minutes. That is balling.
Lots of hustle points. Yeah. The only thing that I can say, quite frankly, is I believe we didn't have Amp and we didn't have Little because of the COVID situation, or we can't say that. They had health and safety protocols.
Right.
So they didn't play. CJ's, I mean, that was he's still within his first week of coming back and getting healthy. He didn't look good. Still no Nurk. People kind of, I think, are used to seeing Nurk out there now, and so oh hey, he played one game, so all of a sudden it's like he's never left. No, he's left, and he wasn't in that game against a team that, quite frankly, has a decent amount of bigs. I mean, that was kind of one of my worries going in, outside of Harden, because I didn't know he would play for sure. I worried about even an aging Blake Griffin, but like you said, I mean, Claxton and these other guys, like a lot of energy and a lot of bigs on the bench to deal with when it comes to rebounding and things like that.
Yep.
It was going to be a tough game. They just hit more shots. I mean, it was one of those situations where Dame has been dealing with the bruised knee. I mean, everybody saw it. He missed the game against the Magic for rest purposes because of the knee contusion. And he's been dealing with it, that he dealt with it in that game. He hasn't looked himself, and with a rusty CJ and kind of a lackluster bench, I mean, we've talked about Hood all year and how he's just not there. That's a tough game regardless. I don't care who they have.
Yeah.
They had James Harden, and we didn't have anybody to stop him.
Yep. Harden played 40 minutes. He played really well. It's really weird to say, but I feel like we struggle a lot with the Hardens of the world. And everybody does. I mean, Harden gets his points, right? But we just don't have – I feel like our best on-ball defender is probably Derek Jones. Covington's not a great guard stopper. I mean, he plays great help defense, but I think he's built to guard 3s and 4s, right? And
Bigger,
so
sure. It's too slow.
It's too slow, and I feel like Harden draws a lot of fouls, and that just happened in that game. So it's whatever, man. But I was really hoping we would beat them. That was one I was really circling on the calendar for a test game.
Yeah, again, I think if Dame is at full speed and healthy, then it's we lost by 4. So I mean, if he stays healthy, it's a whole different situation, in my opinion.
Yep.
But our two guys are banged up, and we just didn't have a lot of other options offensively to keep up with them. We thought they did a fairly decent job.
Yeah,
but that's a big ask. People forget about that kind of stuff.
They have good defenders for the most part, and obviously KD and Kyrie are great defenders. That they don't play that game, but I think they're going to win the East, man. Like, I mean, it's just, they just have too much ammo now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we'll get to some of that here. The second half of the pod for sure.
Yep.
But on the plus side, the Blazers continued to get a streak of teams without any players, or at least missing some of their better pieces. Yep. So we go straight from that into Miami. Again, another one of those games where you hear, oh, no Butler, no Dragic. Yes, this is going to be good stuff. And it was. I mean, it was a good win still.
It was a great win. I think the thing about that is Tyler Herro had a really good game, and Dame did his usual stuff. He did not feel – you could tell there was something wrong with Dame in both of those games, the Nets game and the Heat game. I do think that Dame needed the rest that he got desperately, and I do think he needs more rest as the season goes on. We'll talk more about that in the second half of the pod, but that Heat team is pretty loaded with talent. I mean, Bam Adebayo is really good. Harrow's really good. Duncan played well and has played well in stretches. I mean, I understand they're down Butler, but that's still a really good team. And we came out and beat them on their home court on the East Coast road trip, which was dope.
Yeah, people sometimes forget that they won the East last year. They went to the NBA championship. Like, they were in the finals. And they got a lot of those guys back. I mean, I know that Myers wasn't there and Butler wasn't there, but they still had a lot of other pieces that were there that are still good players. I mean, yeah, Kendrick Nunn's a good player. They had a bunch of guys that can still score the ball, and they have a lot of length. And we struggle against these wily little guards that tend to be able to do everything, and it was no different with Herro. So, but either way, Dame struggled it out. We got the free throws in the end. What a way to win a game. I mean, I'm taking it all day, but man, what a way to win a game.
Well, and Trevor Ariza looked pretty good for his age in that game, and he was defending Dame really well in most of that game. And honestly, I hate seeing games decided with whistles. You and I don't like that. But at the end of the day, Dame shoots a shot, and he hits him on the forearm before the ball is gone. It's going to get called a foul. It's Damian Lillard. You can't touch him. You know what I mean?
You like it when it benefits us, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was one of those situations where Dame stepped up when he needed to at the end of the game. He did exactly what he's done all year. The clutch points, banged up or not, he's still our captain, and he went out there and won us a game that realistically we probably should have won without him. But whatever. I mean, it was.
The thing is, he does it on the other team's most difficult defender, which is something that I don't think a lot of fans understand. Like, he's not just drawing some scrub every time. He at the end of the game, they trap him and they still put their best ISO defender, and he still wins us games in clutch minutes. It's insane. The other thing is, I don't quite understand. do people like the Heat jerseys or do they hate the Heat jerseys? Because those are not my jam. I don't like those at all.
Listen, I give him unique points for sure. It was funny because I think Chad doing somebody said something. I think it was Chad doing says he tweeted out that
Yeah.
he just hated them. And I'm sorry, man. They make me think of cotton candy. I got hungry. Like people, I'm not a slim fella, and when I see the delicious, blue raspberry and whatever pink is for cotton candy, I cherry. But it makes me hungry, man.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't mind it. I think
Yeah.
again, A for effort. It's unique. You don't see a lot of jerseys out there that are
I would
pink and blue.
like them if they were like a solid color with a solid color writing. Like if it was pink jersey, teal writing, or teal jersey, pink writing. But when it's like
You're not a fan of the fade?
I don't like the split. The split is just it's weird and awkward and strange.
It's a Miami Vice thing. Like that's the point,
Yeah.
right? Like
I get it.
Hey,
I don't.
I imagine it's the colors of police sirens because Florida is that's
what it looks like to me.
It's the siren thing. They're representing the city for sure.
Okay, so we win the Heat game, which was great. I think we ended, from the All-Star break until now, the Blazers have played excellent basketball for how banged up they've been, how they've had to reintroduce, we've had to reintroduce CJ and Nurk and all these guys that haven't really played, and then a lot has changed, and then the trade deadline hits. Now, we all feel stale in Blazerland, right? And we feel like there needs to be a shakeup with the team. A lot of people think it needs to be a big shakeup. Some people think it needs to be a tiny little shakeup, but everybody wanted a move to happen, I think, besides Dia. And at this point, we go into the trade deadline, and what were you hoping for? I mean, what was your ideal?
I would have liked to see a forward, preferably a power forward, somebody that was available. I would have liked to see them put Rocco to the 3. If you don't end up trading Jones in that trade, then I like him going to the bench. So I think, depending on what they wanted to do, but I would have liked to see them use Hood and Collins 15 mil and throw in a younger player if necessary to go get another big. I heard names like Markkanen. Obviously, Aaron Gordon was the big draw, especially for Portland. He was probably the biggest name available. I mean, Lowry's name showed up, but for most teams, I think that were involved in trade discussions, it was all about Gordon. Get Gordon, and we had a shot. There was reports that came out that talks diminished about 2 days before the trade deadline. So you didn't really have expectations going in for that. But I still think it was in the back of our mind. So that's what I wanted. That's what I was hoping to do. I would have liked to solidify and get a little more length on the floor, moving Rocco to the 3 and allowing Jones to go play on the bench to give Melo and Cantor some much needed defense.
Yeah.
With help and length to go out there and play with them and some more athleticism. Not necessarily what happened, but I think we could say that we're fairly confident with the move we made is going to help the team, right?
Well, I think twofold, right? And when it first happened, a lot of people were shocked and upset. They were like, "What? We're trading for another guard? Why would we do that?" And in addition to having another guard, he's very similar to Dame and CJ, right? So we trade for Norm Powell. And the other thing is, I think a lot of Blazer fans don't watch Toronto Raptor games, so they don't know what Norm Powell really is capable of. We didn't know he had a 6'10" wingspan. We didn't know he was a totally knockdown 3-point shooter. We just knew he was a backup shooting guard for Toronto. Now, he started some games this year due to their lineups, but at the end of the day, you and I have said from day one this season, Gary Trent is not going to sign long-term with the Blazers, and if he does, it's actually probably a mistake for us. So I like the fact that we use him as an asset to bring something in. I also love getting rid of Hood, and anytime we get rid of Hood, I would have been happy with any move because the minutes he was playing were just a net negative. But at the end of the day, I think Norm Powell can play the 3 confidently better than Gary ever could have. And I think that his floor spacing and shooting is going to help a lot more because Gary was very inconsistent. He was knocking him down sometimes, but he was struggling in March, dude.
Yeah, he definitely started to slow down a little bit. And I don't know if CJ coming back or he knew CJ was going to be coming back and the deadline approaching, if that got in his head a little bit, maybe tried to force more things than he probably needed to.
I think so.
I don't know. I felt like Gary could have netted us a better return. Not unhappy with Norman Powell coming back, but I feel like we're in the same type of situation because Hood and Trent's contracts are done. They're put to the team option. He wasn't coming back regardless. So But then you get a guy that great $10 million contract. Sure, you save a little bit of money for this year, but he's also going to be a free agent, or at least he has an option. So
Yes.
you're going to have to talk about potentially extending him and trying to bring him back now, and you're in the same
Mhm.
exact boat as you were with Gary Trent,
Yeah.
and he's probably better. He shoots better than Gary
Yeah.
Trent. He can do more offensively. He's got a longer wingspan. He's a better on-ball defender.
Hmm.
It worries me that again you traded Gary Trent away. The whole purpose of trading Gary away, in my mind, was because you weren't going to be able to keep him.
Yeah.
So you wanted to try to get something back, I thought, for the future. Otherwise, why trade him? But
Mhm.
they felt that Powell's going to help the team a little bit more with his
Yeah.
shooting. I mean, the dude shoots 50+% from the corners and
Oh.
44 overall from three
Yes, he's
so,
been the third best shooter on volume this year from three.
in the
I
NBA.
think the other thing, okay, so there's a couple ways to look at it, but the Blazers are in win now mode, right? Like everybody says if you want to be in win now mode, you got to do it, right? You got to lock in. So when we say Norman Powell is better than Gary Trent, Norman Powell is 27. He's been on championship teams and he's better in every metric than Gary Trent is on defense, offense, shooting, at scoring at the rim, all that stuff, right? The other thing is Gary Trent's only 22 years old. So what is Gary going to be in 4 years, 5 years? We don't know. But the Blazers don't have the luxury of finding
Luxury
out.
winning.
We don't have the ability to pay him to find out what Gary's going to be in 4 years, and we don't have the experience or the time to give him minutes to get better. And so the other thing is, if Norman Powell doesn't take his 11.5 million next year, which I mean, I don't know. I think it's possible we could talk him into taking that. But if he doesn't take the 11.5 million, I think Neil is just hoping that he can sway him with culture to take a long-term 3 or 4 year deal. I mean, what do you think? He could do that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's playing with guards that were similar to Lowry and Van Fleet, two
Mhm.
smaller guards that are high volume 3-point shooters.
Mhm.
I would say that Lowry is comparable to Dame in some capacity with play style. Obviously, not overall talent. He's nowhere near Dame's level, but they play similar. And so for Powell to come in, I think it helps slide right in. I
Yeah.
think the Raptors being in a losing
Mhm.
culture, and I don't want to call it culture, but season this
Yeah.
year,
Yep.
when they lost Kawhi, and obviously they have not rebounded
No.
rebounded the same way. Last year was a bad year for them too. They didn't do super hot last year.
Mm.
So you get a championship, but then now you're in 2 years not playing super hot. Guys like Powell, hopefully that you come into a team now that's winning, and you feel
Mhm.
like you're going to be a big piece of that. And with Dame's leadership, I think I mean, we saw Hood take a pay cut potentially to come back here originally, before kind of doing what he's doing. We see how much Cantor loves being in Portland. Like once guys get here, we've talked about this before. Once they come here, we typically have the ability to keep them around if they play good and they like the culture. So, yeah, I mean, I can see that, and I think that's what you have to bank on.
Mhm.
Otherwise, this is going to be a big year for them, and they got to hope that we do good because Dame and CJ's extensions are going to start kicking in here, and you're talking 70, almost 80 million tied up into two
Yep.
guards every
Yep.
year, and that's going to really limit what we're going to be able to do financially. So,
It is, and I think it's perfect timing for there's two things to talk about at this point. Number one is so we're not going to have a lot of assets going into next year. The only thing we're really going to have is maybe some salary that falls off because of some of these guys falling off. Like when you're talking about, I don't think Cantor's signed after this year. You're looking in
nope.
at Powell. If he declines his option, you're going to have some money that you can throw at people, but we're going to reset the roster a little bit. The other thing that I think we should think about long term is Nurkic. I mean, right now he's on a $12.5 million deal, and we'll talk about that more. And it's perfect time for him to show out for the rest of the year to prove that he's our starting center and that we should pay him. But he's got one more year after this deal on a $12.5 million, and then we're gonna have a huge decision with Nurkic whether or not he is the future of Blazers center or not.
Yeah, and in some sad way, the injury is going to help us in that regard
Yes.
because he hasn't been able to show out, which means people aren't going to go give him that 15, 16, $17 million contract.
Yeah, you're right.
Hopefully, I mean, if he finishes this year strong, then like you said, you go into the expiring situation next year, and it's kind of a
Yeah.
matter of whether or not he's the long-term guy. I think he is. I still think he's young enough. I think his relationship with our guards is going to be good enough. I think when healthy, if he can just stay on the floor, and his injuries have been kind of freak injuries. They haven't been anything. You worry about the soft tissues and the
Mhm.
knees. A broken leg, yeah, you worry about how they're going to come back, but he's looked good. going into the bubble and this year. I mean, just game shape, but a broken wrist, same thing. Like you can get over that. You can still stay conditioned. You don't worry about some of the long-term effects of the soft tissue, like the hamstrings and the groins and those types of things and what they're going to do. So I think he's definitely going to be the center of the future. A lot of it's going to come up next year, but yeah, you're not kidding. It's going to be rough. So we definitely want to try to go all in this particular year. I think it makes sense to trade Trent. Even if you don't bring Powell back, you're getting a similar type of player to play a similar role at a better level, at a more elite level, which is going to be good for the system. It's good for the offense. And you could potentially start him at flashes at small forward, depending on matchups, because of his length and what he can do spreading the floor.
Yes. And he'll give us more depth. He'll give us better shooting when Dame and CJ get trapped in the playoffs, which is bound to happen. He's a better defender. I just think we're a better team now than we were before the trade. And that's how I look at this trade. And I understand that next year, 2 years from now, because everybody thinks that Gary Trent was going to sign with Portland or something. I don't know. They see him as this big asset. But in my opinion, we're a better team now. We're going to be a better team in this playoff run. And you never know. I mean, right now, the Lakers are really struggling with health. The Clippers still don't have a great ball handler or playmaker outside of their two small forwards. I think that there's youth in Phoenix, right? Like they've never made a real serious run before. So you have to look at that and you have to say, if the Blazers are fully healthy and we have all these experienced guys, I mean, freaking Powell's a champion. He's won a championship. You have to think that there's a shot there. And I don't think, we have Dia on the pod last week and she says, yeah, I think the Blazers have a real shot. I don't think she's joking. And I don't think a lot of people in Blazerland are joking. That I think you have to take us seriously.
Even with the defense being as bad as it is. And that's the big draw on this team being the championship team. Sure. I get it. The defense is bad. Powell helps a little bit. He's a lot like Gary Trent, a little longer. So a little more athletic. I think he can. You see what he can do at the rim. Well, he's good at switching it and covering guys on the weak side, being able to take two guys and run back and forth between them. But at the end of the day, I mean, again, the defense will get better when Nurk gets back into the rotation and gets healthy. End of the day, man, the defense is one thing, but nobody's really doing great with defense. I mean, Miami is a top 10 defensive team, and we beat them with a banged-up Dame.
122 we scored. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even without Butler, I get it, but you're going to have a chance to outshoot guys. You're going to have a chance to take some of these defenses out of what they do good because you're going to be able to run small. We're one of the top three-point shooting teams in the league. Probably one or two in attempts and definitely one or top three in makes and percentage and all of it. So you're going to draw defenses to play your type of game. When you have a leader like Dame who's been there, you're going to be in a good situation. So I don't know. I think this year is just as good as any other year. I think when the Lakers get fully healthy, for sure, I think they're still the favorites. And Utah's got the chemistry and a really great all-around team. They're the scariest team probably in the league outside of the Nets because
I agree.
They're the Nets right now.
They're going to be tough, but you never know.
I agree. I think that you go all in. This is a good year to do it. I think when everybody's clicking on the same level, we've talked about. I can't tell you how many times we've talked about chemistry in this podcast, and part of that you're seeing that in Rocco and what he's able to do defensively these last couple months. He's really starting to figure it out because he's getting comfortable. And as you get Nurk back into the lineup, and he's already learned how to play with Cantor in the drop back. When you start to learn how to play with Nurk and what he likes to do and where his spacing is going to be, you're going to see those two really lock down the inside a little bit better than I think we've seen.
Yep.
So adding a guy like Powell and being able to switch between him and Jones in that third position, that all forward role, is going to be good for this team overall.
Well, and not only that, but so Powell's 6'10", so he's long, and he's been a part of really good defensive teams too. So when you think that you're going to have Dame and CJ out there a lot with him or DJ and Covington, and then the other thing is when Dame or CJ sit, you will play Powell alongside them. You think those lineups will be a lot better defensively. They might struggle with offense a little bit, but I just think it's kind of a zag. The league is heading towards this place where it's three-point shooting, it's spread the floor, it's hit more jumpers than the other team you're playing. And if we can make somebody's life hell defensively, that's great. But it's just not going to be the Blazers' strong suit. I don't care who we would have traded for. I don't care who we brought in at that trade deadline.
Nobody was going to make a difference.
we brought in Covington and Derek Jones, and they're fantastic defenders. But with our guards and what's going on with our team, just like with injuries and things like that, there's no way we're going to be a top 10 defensive team. So why don't you just try to outshoot everybody? Like let's try something new. That's what Houston did, and they made the damn Western Conference Finals, and they were really close to winning the whole West until they kind of choked in against Golden State in that series in like 2017 or whatever year that
Well,
was.
that's because you got to remember Chris Paul got hurt and they fell apart.
Exactly.
But yeah, that was their whole scheme was 3-ball. I mean, you think people can talk all day about Golden State's defense, and Draymond Green's a good defender, and they're good defenders. Don't matter. They won with defense to an extent, but they were shooting just the lights out of the ball. Like that's how you're going to win in this league. At least it's going to give you a good enough chance to stay in games. When you give up easy buckets, I mean, yeah, it sucks because your defense isn't great, but you have the shooting now to immediately go on a run and get yourself back into any situation. We just saw it with the 17-point comeback against the Pelicans. I mean, you have a guy like Dame, and you can have shooters that can all of a sudden turn up. It's going to give you a shot no matter what.
Yeah, and so the other great addition, which was after the trade deadline, which was kind of weird, was Nurk came back. And so Dame, it was nice because Dame got to sit that Magic game, and we still comfortably won because Powell played. First of all, he scored 22, most by a Blazer in their debut. But then the other thing that happened is Nurk was playing 5-minute stretches, and I thought he looked pretty good for a guy who hasn't played in 32 games. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. I mean, he got in the foul trouble early, and he still had some things to work on, but. Yeah, I mean, he was rebounding all right. He still looked offensively just fine. He's going to get back in the rhythm of where to pass the ball and get used to some of these guys, and it's going to take him some time to kind of get familiar again with Covington and Jones and Powell as they mix around those lineups.
Yeah.
And it was great to see Powell get in there. We got fortunate because normally in this situation we wouldn't have gotten to have Powell because of him having to come from Toronto, but since they're playing in Florida right now, a lot of people don't realize that the Raptors are actually in Tampa Bay this year because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we actually got him to the team. He was a quick little skip and hop to Orlando, so we got to see him play. And I think we saw a good glimpse of exactly why they brought him here now. No Dame, so he was playing the shooting guard position, which makes a little bit of a difference. I think tonight when we play the Raptors, we'll be able to see a little bit more of how he'll get utilized. There's talks that he's going to end up starting probably over Jones. So we're going to get to see more of what that might look like. But either way, you see the shooting that he gives you. I mean, lights out. It just as advertised, hitting a corner three. I mean, I don't even think he hit the rim once. I think it was all just splashing the net.
He and CJ both had 22 points in 36 minutes. CJ was 7 assists, which is awesome. And then Cantor with 15 and 15. He's just been a rock all year. Carmelo played 27 minutes in that Magic game, and he only scored 8 points, but I feel like he hit some of the buckets he hit were big. And then Anthony Simon scored 15 in 25 minutes. So good minutes.
Which is great to see because no Dame, you're going to have those stretches where you're going to need him.
Yeah,
Melo's been a little odd, man. He's been a little odd lately when it comes to his efficiency. He's not even that he's been inefficient. I just haven't seen them run the offense through him as much, it feels like.
I don't think they have to. And the other thing is when you talk about Melo, honestly, our team is best when we don't need Melo. If he can give us 14 to 16 points, I think we typically win the game if he scores 15 plus is the metric. I think we're savagely plus minus when he does that. But honestly, I agree with you. I haven't seen a lot of Melo in the last few games, but we've won a lot of these games. So that's kind of been a nice little blend.
Yeah, and he's still, when you watch him, he's still taking advantage of matchups, but I've noticed he's passing more. We talked about the playmaking as he's gotten comfortable with this team and gotten back really into shape. Because even last year and going into the bubble, I mean, you drew a dude off the couch for almost 2 years. He didn't play the year before completely, and really the year before that, he was kind of getting tossed around. Yeah. So you got to see, you definitely get to see him getting a little more comfortable, making more plays. And it's great because now he's able to do a little bit more, and guys are going to be more honest. He's also drawing a lot of double teams. Yeah. He's definitely starting to draw double teams, and he's making the right pass to some of these guys. And I think that's where a guy like Powell, if he does come off the bench in the future, playing with a guy like Melo is going to be extremely beneficial. Or Jones, either way. We saw a couple times where he hit Jones on some really nice cuts to get some easy buckets because he's so smart and he's able to read what these guys are going to do and where they're going to be.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of Melo that right now we need to continue to have off the bench. It's been huge.
Yeah. I agree with you. I was going to point that out. It was something that I've been noticing the last few games. He's definitely been passing more. I think he's been really efficient. I haven't looked at the shots that he's taking, but it's not very often that I complain about Melo anymore. And that was something I was doing
Right.
a lot this year. Early on in the year, I was really whining about Melo. Like, come on, dude, that's such a terrible position. Or why is Melo shooting too much? Too much Melo. I haven't done that in 2 weeks. And I think he's found the perfect balance and he's starting to blend into his role. I also think that he was playing with a lot of younger guys at the beginning of the season and he didn't trust them a lot. And now he's making those passes and he's kicking them out a little
Chemistry.
more. I think it's going to be great, man. I think he's going to be a weapon when the playoffs come around. I think he's going to be able to take advantage of mismatches, and he's got a ton of experience on these younger guys. So bring it on, man. I'm ready for Melo.
Yeah, I've noticed it and I've liked it. I really have. I think it seems more smooth. It's not as forced. We talked about it being a little forced at the beginning of the year, where it was just jab, jab, shoot, jab, jab, shoot. Now he's looking when it's a good time to shoot. He's where he likes them to be. He's taking over one side of the floor, still doing his normal thing, but the fact that he's been hitting shots over guys, especially when he starts off hot, is drawing those double teams and being able to pass out of it and really get open looks. And it's been a big boost to the bench of this team.
Absolutely. He's going to continue to be as CJ spreads the floor for him on the second unit as the point guard, because he is going to play a lot of that point guard. I think you're going to see it get better for Melo, and I think you're going to see less of the offense have to flow directly through him. The other thing is getting Nurkic back makes for solid rotations, right? And that's something that I feel like the next 3 weeks are really going to prove to us, because we have a ridiculously hard schedule coming up. And so I want to see us get some of these rotations down where, Melo plays with Cantor in the second unit, and Nurk comes in and Nurk is playing well with Powell as starters, or whatever it may be. I want to see these guys get some time to mesh, because the playoffs are really seriously coming, and I don't want to be a play-in team. I would prefer to be the 6th seed, because everything 7 through 9 has to do play-in, and I'm just not into that.
Yeah, I agree. I would prefer to get some of these kinks worked out. This is the first time all year that we've been completely healthy.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess technically since you started the season, but it's still something that we're going to, these other guys are starting to get more and more comfortable in their roles. You can integrate Nurk and CJ back in kind of slowly and really see how things are going to unfold. And I'm looking forward to it. The Magic was a perfect game to me to bring Nurk back and to introduce Powell to the team, because they had traded away everybody. They made some of the, in my opinion, some terrible mistakes. I don't know why you get rid of Vucevic, him. Yeah. I understand trading away Gordon because you didn't see him, but you had a 2-time All-Star center and you traded him away. They had 8 guys, and outside of Michael Carter Williams, I don't know if you can name a single guy. Let's be real. Or
Damon. I know Kem Birch really well. Mo Bamba, he played a little bit. I like Kem Birch and Mo Bamba. So the big thing, so they have 2 young kids who are really good. Jonathan Isaac is a great 3, but he blew his whole knee out last year right before the bubble, and then he got hurt again.
Been healthy in years.
Yep. And then the other one is Markelle Fultz, whose health is in question. But they just look, if you want to be a fire stocks person, or you want to be a blow it up and trade CJ person, look at the Magic and just be like, okay, that's what happens when you get rid of superstars, or when you have difficulty with coaching, right? They had potentially. Gordon was never an all-star, I don't think, in selection, but he was a really good player for Vucevic's too. They couldn't find the right guards to really complement those guys. But man, if you want to be a fire stats person, no thank you. I will take 46 to 50 wins every year, playoffs every year. Like, yes, please sign me up for that.
Yeah. I can't argue that. You don't want to be one of those teams like Minnesota who you get stuck in this. You have a superstar like Cat, and you get stuck in this rut because you can't draft right, you can't trade right, you don't sign the right free agents, you're rotating coaches in and out every year.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's just different. But so in looking forward to the second half of the season, we're pretty big Nurkic guys. We really like to see Nurkic not only play good defense, but also just be really consistent. He's a good defender when he's locked in, but the other thing is offensively, he does a lot of weird finishes around the rim. Get angry, big fellow. Like, let's get going. Let's see some dunks. I really want to see Nurkic play at a level he hasn't played at he played well in the bubble. I'd take the bubble Nurkic. The other thing is, I think with no Rodney Hood and no Gary Trent, I think you're going to see consistent rotations. Now, Anthony needs to step up, because he is going to be relied upon for 15 to 20 minutes a game. And in those 15 to 20 minutes, I'd like to see him average 10 points or more. Is that unfair?
No, that was kind of his role, was to be a hybrid scorer, to play I guess to play the backup point guard. I still don't see him as a point guard
No,
personally,
he's a
but
combo
that's
shooting
the
guard.
role that they've asked. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the role that they've asked. I don't know, man. I think it's going to be interesting. I don't think you're going to see him play as much as you think because I really think Powell's going to get 30 plus minutes a game,
Sure.
rotating in, and I think CJ is going to continue to go back to playing that backup point guard role when Dame rests, and then CJ will go out when Dame comes back in,
Yeah.
and then Powell will play with him or Jones or whoever they end up doing it, and then when Dame and CJ both play together, there you go. So
Okay.
I think they're going to get back to that. There's a reason Anthony didn't play much before, and that was realistically because of the rotation. The fact that they like to put CJ at that two,
Yeah.
I should say second unit playing the point guard for a while Dame rests, and then they kind of do their thing together. So
there was something else we didn't call out too. I forgot about this. The last 5 games, I don't know if the other Blazer fans have noticed, but have you noticed that DJ's rim running a lot more, and Dame is finding him a lot. There was a stretch, I think it was in the Brooklyn game. They went to him like 3 or 4 possessions in a row trying to get dunked. It was ridiculous. That has become a thing in the offense. Now, DJ's role will diminish a little bit because Powell will play more 3, but I mean, Derrick Jones is going to still get 25 to 30 minutes. I still think he's going to be prevalently out there a lot. And if that can be part of the offense and that can take pressure off these shooters, let's go, man. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him. That's why I kind of wanted to play on the bench. That's why I wanted him to try to get a power forward in the first place, so that we move guys around and get him back onto the bench.
Sure.
Because I think that he can be a little more aggressive. He's already got some more confidence. He's like you said, he's going to the rim, cutting and going up for the out.
Yeah.
More. Cannot get enough of the airplane sound. Put your seatbelt on in the Moda Center. A lot of fans probably don't notice that, but every time he gets a dunk or he goes up, you hear the doo doo. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think he's getting more comfortable in what they want him to do in offense. He's shooting the ball better.
Yes.
And I think by shooting the ball a little bit better in this recent stretch, guys are starting to kind of creep out towards him a little more, which is allowing him to get around behind and guys are finding him.
Well, him and Covington have both been much more efficient from 3 the last few weeks, and it has unlocked our offense. I mean, I don't know what we're averaging right now points per game wise, but I would say since the All-Star break, other than that one really weird Dallas game where we couldn't break 100, I think we broke 110 or 112 every single game. And that's not easy to do for an NBA offense. But when you talk about Dame was playing at a ridiculous level, and I think he's drawing a lot of this coverage off, and you're seeing him. He's been averaging a lot more assists this year too. He has confidence in these guys, and he knows that they can knock the shots down. It's just, I just think it's whether or not we can get the clutch defensive possessions, which we did in the Miami game and we did in the Magic game, but we didn't do in the Brooklyn game.
Yeah. It's going to be, I mean, that's why we brought them here. I mean, I guess the defense for the most part, but as far as the offense goes, their role was to be able to hit the open threes. We've talked about it all year, that we need to see them start to do so.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see them do so. And I think that's why you're on a little bit of a run right now. I mean, Brooklyn game aside, Dallas game aside, you've still been on a pretty good stretch. I mean, you beat the Pelicans twice. You beat Dallas the first time. Now you've taken care of Orlando. You've taken care of Miami. We're still, what do we say every week on this podcast? What is our number 1 motto? 500.
Yep.
Every week, do it. And we've done it again. You know, you've lost 2, but you won 3. So if we can continue to do so and continue to shoot like we've been shooting, you're going to continue to see wins. I think.
Yeah.
It's just good to see them finally start to hit these shots.
It is. So, okay, so the next stretch isn't as tough as I thought. So the next time we record, we will have covered, we play the Pistons on Wednesday, we play the Bucks on Friday, Thunder, Clippers, Jazz. That's tough. But then we play the Pistons and the Heat. So it's a 50-50 mix of really tough teams and then teams that are kind of bottom feeding right now, and the Pistons and the Thunder. I think if we go 500 or better by the time we record next week, we'll be happy.
Right, and we'll have the Raptors there tonight. So we have, a decent little stretch there coming up before we record again.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I see, like, we talked to Dia, and I've listened to the Dave and Dia podcast, and some other people talk about really wanting to, you know, play better and get the wins against the competitive teams. And of course you do. Yeah. But I think especially with this stretch of the season and Portland's situation in particular, you got to just – I don't want to lose to the bad teams. Like, I understand that, you know, their point was like, well, if you lose to the bad team, it doesn't really hurt you because they can't catch you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you need those wins. If you're going to be a good competitive team, you have to stack on those teams. I get you're going to let one slip every once in a while. It's going to happen. Anybody can win any given night. But you really, if you're going to establish yourself as a competitor for a championship, you got to go 75% or better on these teams that are not playoff teams. So we have a couple of them to take care of. I would like to agree when we go to record next. I'd like to have. I always want to be 500 or better, but I think we should be.
I think we will. So moving into the second half of the season, I'm feeling better about our rotations. We're getting healthier, which obviously makes me feel better. CJ's been a little up and down, which is fine. That's what we expected on the podcast. We knew he would have good nights and bad nights. Nurkic is going to have good nights and bad nights. There's going to be nights where he gets into early foul trouble and you wonder why he's even on the floor, and Kanter looks better because Kanter's really consistent and he comes out there and brings it every night, but Kanter can't defend that much. I think Blazerland needs to stay patient and remember that we're playing for a long-term goal this year and not regular season wins. We're looking for building sustainable culture throughout the playoffs and rotations. So I'm happy with where we're at, man. I really am, and I'm looking forward to the next 3 weeks. I think the next 3 weeks are going to be the biggest test.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to know that when Nurk has a bad game or gets in the foul trouble, that Kanter could come in. He just broke the franchise record for most offensive rebounds in a 3-game stretch. I mean, he's doing it at a ridiculous level. I mean, I think he had 18 in the 2 games, and then had another 5 or 6 against Orlando.
9 in each game, and then he had his career high in assists, which was only 6. But if you think about career high in assists while he's getting the most offensive rebounds, the dude's he's just a baller, man. He just goes out there and gives you hustle every night.
Because, and especially the last couple games in particular, I've noticed that when he gets the rebound, a lot of times he'll do the quick putback, and that's great and all, but he's kind of starting to look around and find open guys. I mean, if you look at I don't remember if it was the Orlando game. I want to say it was the Orlando game where he just caught that and kicked it back out to Rocco for a 3 at the end of that game that really kind of iced it.
Yeah.
It's just been a huge improvement in his game, and he's looking to do that more and more and more.
Yeah.
I mean, he's never going to be a big passer up at the top of the key. That's not his area. Whereas Nurk, when he sets a screen and gets the ball, he can pass really well from the 3-point line and up at the top. But that's not Kanter. It's not what he's going to do.
No.
But if he can get those offensive rebounds and realize that he has a weird shot to go back up, instead look for an open 3, get a better look.
Yeah.
It's just you got guys like Powell on the bench coming in here pretty quick. It's going to be a much more fun team to watch.
I will say that Kanter's now Moses Brown, your Blazing Trailblazer of the week last week. I mean, Moses had 21 and 23 last night. It's been insane, dude. The guys, I think he got a contract. I think he got a 3-year deal from OKC now.
Yeah, see?
He got him a contract.
I'm sure that they listen like, you know what? If this guy's making Blazing New Trails Player of the Week, then we gotta keep him around because it's not always the situation. Some guys don't play for the NBA anymore, Myers Leonard. And speaking of which, other guys who were, recent contributors on the Blazing New Trails Players of the Week podcast segment. LaMarcus Aldridge got bought out. Man, how are you feeling about that? A lot of people were torn. I think it was 50-50 if he got bought out to bring him back home to the Blazers. What do you think?
I was fine. I don't want him, honestly. I didn't want him. I didn't want Blake Griffin. I don't want Drummond. I don't want anyone who in the last 3 years has not been on a very winning team. I don't think LMA has it anymore. I think LaMarcus Aldridge is a little bit washed, and I don't think he's going to play meaningful minutes. The thing is, we have the best version of LaMarcus Aldridge right now in Carmelo Anthony. I think that they are literally the same exact spot in their career. They're going to work off the block. They just work in different areas, but neither one of them should be your best player, and they definitely shouldn't be in your starting lineup for a championship team, in my opinion. I'm fine with it. I would rather have Norman Powell. I would rather have Lauri Markkanen and try to sign him to a long-term deal than waste money on LaMarcus. But I understand the sentimental value, and I understand Blazers fans wanted to dust off their LaMarcus jersey, so I get that.
I had it ready to go. I pulled it out. It was third in my Blazers Blazer jersey collection. It passed up, along with everybody else, Myers Leonard's jersey. Ouch. Yes, I have one, everybody. All right, probably not for long, but I was ready for LaMarcus. And the reason I brought this up for a particular reason, because he did get bought out, and he ended up going to the Nets. Yeah. Everybody's going to the Nets. Everybody's going to the Nets. It's a big party. Let's go get an easy ring. Sure. It's funny. Blazer fans are probably going to hate me for saying this, and this be probably like blasphemy coming from my mouth. But if the Blazers do not get to the championship and win it, because that's obviously, numero uno on the goal list. I'm going to get so much flack for this. I'm rooting for LeBron and Anthony Davis to take out the Nets. Like, I want the Lakers to go. No, I'm sorry. This is a big deal.
You just pulled a
You can turn the podcast off. You can stop recording now.
I thought you were going to say you were rooting for Blake Griffin and LaMarcus to just get the desperate ring.
Absolutely not. I'm sick of the stupid Nets. I'm done with the super team thing. I would rather LeBron and Anthony Davis go back to back and get a ring than watch Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge and Kyrie Irving. And I don't like Kyrie. I don't like him. I don't like Kevin Durant. I don't like Harden. I don't like those players. I respect the crap out of their game, and I think they're elite talent. I don't like how they all teamed up. I'm sorry. It bugs me. Harden forced his way out of Houston just to go to Brooklyn.
Yep.
I mean, they got Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge for nothing, for chicken nuggets. It's like, ridiculous. I'm out of it, man. I want to see them lose now, and I think the only chance outside of our precious Blazers taking them down, I don't see anybody in the East beating them anymore. I mean, the Greek Freak hasn't proven himself in playoffs at all. Philly's, Embiid's hurt again, so you can't count on Philly to do anything, and they have no shooting. They're not going to be able to keep up offensively. It's going to be Brooklyn in the East, and I don't trust Utah to do it. I love Utah. I think they're a great team. They don't have the experience. They don't have championship experience. They barely have playoff experience. I'm going with LeBron James and Anthony Davis outside of us. I mean, obviously we're going to take them out in round one. My dreams will get crushed when we lose to Utah, but I'm sorry. I know.
God, this is so gross. This is the grossest take all year.
We're going to followers we're about to lose because of this.
And we might as well just be an anti-Nets podcast now if we're rooting for the Lakers. So I agree with you, though. I don't want to see them win. Honestly, if it's not the Blazers, I'm not going to root for anybody specifically. I mean, if it's anybody, it'd be Denver or Utah, just because they're small market teams with one superstar, basically.
Way to make me look bad, man. All right.
But I agree with you. Neither one of them have playoff championship pedigree, and neither one of them have 4 all-star pluses, which you pretty much need in the NBA now. Like, if you don't have 3+ all-stars, then you just stink, and you might as well just give your all-stars to the other teams. Like Thanos gets the gauntlet. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous when they're getting these players. But there's another segment that's become worldwide famous. I don't want to preface this too much, but the Blazing Trails. Listen, the Blazing Trails Trailblazing Blazer of the week.
No, whoa. I'll be handling the Blazing New Trails Player of the Week.
Yeah, it has become okay. So you have literally made the career of 3 people. LaMarcus, you got to the Nets, so he's going to win a championship. Moses Brown just got a contract, and Myers Leonard will probably be out of the NBA. So you've made the 2 out of the 3.
Yeah. Okay. Before I get to that, I had a point to that last segment that I wanted to finish up on, and I got distracted by my Lakers thing, and everybody, we don't have any listeners at this point. They all just turned it off. Anybody that was following this turned it off, so it doesn't really matter what we do now. But I was curious, out of the guys who are getting bought out right now, I'm going to throw some names at you. Which one you'd like to see on the team? Because we have 2 roster spots.
Okay.
We have some money that we can throw at one of them. We have the mid-level still. So
sure.
Okay, I'm going to give you some names, most of which, I think I just read Andre Drummond's off the board. He's going to the Lakers.
Yeah.
He's going to combat those Nets. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple names. Okay. Otto Porter. This is a name that's been floated around the Blazer trade market for years, the last couple of years, as another slightly better shooting Robert Covington. A long, good defender. He's shooting plus 40% from the 3 this year and when healthy. So I'm going to give you him. There's one name.
Okay.
I'm going to let you choose now. There's him, and then Gorgui Dieng. I hope I said his name right. I don't really feel like we need a center, but again, a high hustle guy with Nurk's injuries and things like that. Maybe you bring him in at a cheap deal if nobody else wants him on a competing team right now, and you just add a little bit of depth to your bigs, okay? And this one's my personal favorite, but I'm still going to leave this up to you. Jeff Teague. So Teague got bought out. He's another backup point guard for us. He would probably come in and play a little more than Anthony. This is a guy that has all-star, he's got 1 all-star under his belt, plenty of experience in the playoffs playing with Atlanta and Boston and some of those other teams in the last couple of years. What's your thoughts on these three guys? They're kind of the big names in the buyout market, and the Drummond's been removed, and LaMarcus has been removed. So
Yeah. I agree with you on Gorgie. I don't think we need another center, even though Zhang is really underrated. He's a good center. I don't think we need him. I don't think Otto Porter is a great fit right now because I think that the 3-4 minutes are pretty solidified. In fact, I think it's hard to find minutes for DJ Nas. I mean, because Covington and Powell are now going to get minutes alongside Dame and CJ. I wouldn't mind bringing Otto Porter in if it means that, like, just as like a health insurance policy for DJ or whoever might get injured throughout the year. But I'm with you. I think Jeff Teague, and I think it's mostly because on nights where Dame and CJ maybe can't facilitate and play make, I think he could really carry an offensive workload for you. He's not going to score a lot, and that's fine, right? Like our team is built around enough shooting to where he wouldn't have to. But I just don't know, man. I don't see why Otto Porter or Jeff Teague at this point are going to play Otter Porter Jr. I don't see why they're going to play big minutes for us. Honestly, I thought dumping Hood was such a good move because I was so tired of him being out there that I wanted to see more Nas minutes. I wanted to see more Anthony minutes. I felt like they were more productive. And there's times where they struggle defensively, sure. But Hood just wasn't giving me anything that made me happy. He was averaging 4 points, 1 assist, 1 rebound on 20 minutes a game. It's ridiculous how low his production was. I don't want another vet to come in and take up minutes. I want us to play 8 guys in a solid rotation and feel confident with the guys we have, right?
Yeah. And I'll give you one more name just for a bonus edition here. Edition.
Yeah.
Austin Rivers got bought out as well from Oklahoma City. So now he's out there floating around. You want another one of those combo guards that you can play at the 1, the 2?
I would take Austin Rivers of all those people only because I think he's probably the best defender that we would use in the playoffs. And what I mean by that is if you staggered him with Dame or CJ, he would help guard the opponent's best guard. So I think Austin Rivers would be my favorite one. My fear is that Austin Rivers would get like in a heat check mode and he would just start chucking up shots. If he played, I would want him to take Anthony's role of 15 to 20 minutes, defensive stopper guard. See, I like guys like Avery Bradley and Austin Rivers because I always thought that they would slot in perfectly next to Dame. But it doesn't matter at this point. We're just going straight up shooting. Let's just play 3 guards. Let's put Powell at the 3 and just outshoot the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, I'd still I think Rivers or Teague for me gives you a backup point guard. I'd like CJ to get more rest. I'd like him to play more minutes with Dame and together instead of Dame. If they start the game and then Dame plays the entire first quarter typically while CJ rests.
Yeah.
And then CJ comes in for some of the second quarter, usually leads that second unit, and then Dame comes back in and plays with him to finish out the half and the games. Sure. I would like CJ to play more with Dame, maybe the entire first quarter, get up big, let them both rest for 6-7 minutes in that second quarter, give them a good rest to come in for the second half, finish it out. And same thing when, between third and fourth quarter, keep them both as fresh as can be going into the end of games when we seem to tighten up and when it all matters.
Yeah.
Versus, and I get why they run CJ out there because I don't think they trust Anthony to run the offense. I think that they want CJ just being an established vet who's actually a pretty good point guard when you think about the number of assists and control and running an offense that he has.
Yep.
But if we could get somebody else to fill that role and give CJ more rest with 2 roster spots, another vet that's been in the league and been around, I'm all for it. I think personally, as much as I like what Anthony can do for the future, this is a win now mode. I'd rather have a vet, even over Nas.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'd rather have a guy come in and take minutes away from those guys. I don't care. We are in win now mode.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would prefer to have one of those veteran guards come in to play with Powell or Jones off that bench in that second unit to really run the offense and give some of our starters a bit more of a rest. But that's just me.
I'm with it 100%. I don't know that we will. We have the money. We have the roster spot. It's just whether or not they want to come here. We'll see. Either way, we're good. We got some big questions going into the off season, but we'll deal with that after we win our championship this year because everybody will want to come to Portland once we do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Not irrational in any way.
No, that's obviously going to happen. Okay. I'll get it out of the way. All right. I didn't have a good one for this week. We're going to be 100% honest with you. I don't have a good one. So I'm going to go with my Blazing New Trails Player of the Week. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be simple. And I'm going to pull it up because I want to make sure I have the right information here. I know. There goes my drum roll's ruined now.
Hmm.
All right. So it's gonna be probably one of the sadder ones of the segment that we've had in a while. It's gonna be
Okay.
one that people are like, oh man, this is too bad. But I'm gonna stick with it.
Oh no.
There we go. All right, it's Gary Trent Jr.
Okay.
I just want to bring it up. I didn't have a good one for this week, so I kind of wanted to talk about he made his premiere on Friday night with his new team, the Toronto Raptors. And this is what we traded Powell, or to get Powell. This is what we traded for to get Powell. There's a lot of people that were so mad about Gary Trent being traded that they thought he was going to be this next superstar
Sure.
guard, and nobody knew anything about Powell. So he shot 4 of 11 in 31 minutes. He was 0 of 5 from the 3-point line. Yeah. Got no rebounds, no assists. Ended up with the 8 points. They were all twos that he got, which means he didn't draw any fouls or hit any free throws.
Yeah.
Defensive stats, 0 and no steal. So he's no blocks, 1 steal. So again, I'm not trying to knock the guy, but I thought it was an important Blazing New Trails Players of the Week because we just made this trade. We got rid of him. We brought in Powell. I think a lot of people were, nervous about that. There was a lot of talk about Trent all year. It's been him or CJ, whether or not we're going to move him. I think people started to fall, they got to see a lot of him with CJ's injury, and I think that they started to get enamored by him a little bit.
Yes.
So he fits into his new team. I think this is what he's starting at the 3. So we got to see a little bit about what he's going to do them in the 3-guard lineup.
Yeah.
Versus what we got out of Powell. Small sample size. I'm not knocking by any means. That was just his first game, but I thought it was kind of important to see the difference between what him and Powell could possibly do in this offense. Everybody's going to have off games. Probably going to be like, oh, he's just a new team. Yeah, I get it. But he still went 0-5. He still got looks. He didn't shoot well. And they're playing in a similar system to us. Lowry and Van Fleet are a lot like Dame and CJ. So this is what it might look like if he were to go out to the 3. You're going to see him get relied upon with the 30 to 40 minutes a game to try to hit the open threes. I don't care what team you're on. That's your job. And we saw Powell come in and fit seamlessly with us. So just something to be a little bit aware of as we start to monitor this next couple of weeks. It won't be the last time we bring this up on the podcast because of the fact that we kind of went guard for guard with contracts that are potentially up. And we're going to see how interesting this comparison is throughout the rest of the year.
I don't know, man. I just think Gary needs to add a lot more to his game than just shooting threes. Like, he needs to be a better finisher. He needs to figure out how to do some playmaking. I mean, it's no secret on the pod. I don't think we were huge fans of his. We love what he could give us when CJ was hurt, but you just can't pay the guy. And we want him to, if he wants to get better and play a lot of minutes and be on a team that he can get better with, great. Sign a deal with another team that's going to be a long-term venture for you to get better and become a great guard in this league. Is he capable? Absolutely. It's just he's not on the right timeline and trajectory with this Blazer team for us to be able to utilize him. And I'm not going to mortgage Dame or CJ to utilize him more. You know what I mean? It's just, I hope he does well with the Raptors, and I hope he signs a long-term deal there because Toronto would be a great fit for him, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's better suited to play on a team that needs a 2, but if Lowry ends up leaving, which is probably going to happen in the next year or 2 anyway, and they can go with him and Van Fleet and go super young, I think it is a solid deal for them to make. So, that's all I have for that segment, man. You got anything else?
No, I don't think so. We talked a little bit about the trade deadline. I have one thing for you that I would like to bring up. We were definitely in deep talks with the Bulls, and the deep talks were around Lauri Markkanen. And I think it was the exact same deal. I think it was going to be Markkanen and maybe salary filler. I don't really know. I haven't really crunched his numbers for Gary Trent and Hood. Would you rather have had him or Norman Powell, and why?
I'd rather have him. I would rather have Markkanen because he's a good shooter. He's still going to give you the stretch 4 that I don't think we've had and really wanted the last couple of years. The injuries scare me a bit. They've always kind of scared me with him because he doesn't tend to stay healthy. But I think it adds length, and that's a big deal for me. I talked about it all, leading up to the trade podcast or the trade deadline on the podcast. I've talked about wanting to move Rocco to the 3 so that Jones can slide to the bench to add the defense and the length to the bench. That would have allowed us to do that. You would not have compromised your shooting in the starting unit. Markkanen can rebound. He can play defense. He's not the greatest defender, but he's long enough to be able to go out there. He's still young. He's got good legs. He can still close in the perimeter. But offensively, I mean, we saw it when we played the Bulls this year. People tend to forget that he lit us up from three. When he gets those open looks, and he would get those open looks, I think that he continues to make that offense just as good, if not better, than what we have with Jones. Powell can shoot. Obviously, we talked about his numbers being third best in the league right now and 50% from the corners. I get Powell can shoot, and I get Powell is great. I just think the size and what you would have a true power forward finally. I think that he could do a little bit more post work.
Yeah.
I think he would have fit better with Nurk. I just think there was more that he could have given the team with his age, his contract.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would have had to look to re-sign him, but he wouldn't have been expensive. I don't think he would have cost very much because of his injuries and really the Chicago market.
Yeah.
You know, not a lot of teams are looking at him as a prize. Otherwise, I think more people would have gone after him in the trade deadline. They probably would have offered more. Yeah. So I would have liked to see him over Powell just because of what that gives you. And I think, if you lose Trent in that situation and Hood, your backup guard position gets a little shaky, but that's where the buyout market comes in. That's where you go get an Austin Rivers. That's where Anthony finally has to step up and really play big minutes. You get Jones to go back on the bench. With Jones going onto the bench, you add your length. You put him at the 2 if you really needed to. You get more athletic, and then you have Nas continue to play the 3. So you get a lot of size on both of the lineups, both our bench and our starters. I really think that would have been a big deal. I think you add a lot of dynamic to the offense getting marketed. While staying big. So that's my big thing on that.
And you can invest in marketing for more than this year and next year, right? Like if marketing plays well and he spaces the floor and he's kind of a miniature Kevin Love, next thing you know, you sign him to a 4-year deal at a decent money, and you don't have to worry about, because you'd have Dame, CJ, Markkanen, and Nurkic locked up, and you have 4 starters, and then you're filling in stuff. I agree to an extent. I think Powell is the more win now move, which is great. But gosh, dude, I have an affinity for Lauri Markkanen, and we still don't know what he can be. I do think he's a liability defensively, but it's the same thing as Powell. You're just zagging where the league is not going, and you're just trying to outshoot everybody. And I think it could have been done. I do think the Bulls just wanted something more. I think they wanted to throw a pick in, and we just weren't willing to throw in more picks. We don't have that many picks, and that's fine with me. I don't care. I'd rather keep our stuff and just have money this upcoming off season to chase somebody. But I would keep our eye on Lauri, because I think that he could end up on our team at some point.
Yeah, he definitely was a target. We talked to them. I mean, I feel like that's one of those guys that Neil's been wanting as a really good stretch for. I mean, it's one of the reasons he drafted the way he has, and we've picked up some certain guys throughout the last couple of years.
Yeah, so I just wanted your opinion on that one, because I thought that those 2 deals were literally like neck and neck, and if the Bulls had pulled the trigger, we would have taken Markkanen instead. And I think that Powell was a great consolation prize for us. The Aaron Gordon stuff, we just didn't have the assets, and I'm fine with that. I didn't
like Gordon anyway.
No.
We talked about it. I just didn't like him anyway.
Don't mortgage the whole next 4 years for Aaron Gordon and Robert Covington, who are expensive and play the same general position. I would rather just see what we can do in the off season. So anything else, man?
Agreed. No, I think that's it. We're going to have a big stretch of games to cover next week. We're going to get the Raptors. We're going to get to see the Trent Hood versus Powell game coming up. We're going to get cover a lot of fun stuff. I think the deadline was a big deal, and it's kind of relieving that it's passed, because all the what ifs and what could be's is done. We can start to shift our focus over to the schedule and seeding and talking about potential, play-in tournaments and playoffs. We're starting to get to that point. We're turning that corner as a team. We're still off to, I believe, the best start in the Damian Lillard era as far as record goes. And we have a lot to be happy about. We're seeing a lot of it. It's really going to be monitoring the chemistry for the next couple of weeks of getting Nurk and CJ back into the fold and what Powell can do. So I'm looking forward to talking to you, about all that stuff, man.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be, I think we need to continue to practice patience, or preach patience amongst Blazer fans. I think at this point, 500 or better every week from here on out will solidify a 6 or 7 seed for us. The West is going to continue to beat each other up. And when we go to the East, I think you got to take advantage of those teams. There's not a team in the East that scares us, because we beat Philly twice with Embiid both times, I think. I can't remember. Yeah, he was still healthy. So here's the thing. As long as we play and we compete in most of the games on the stretch, I'll be happy. And I just want to see us stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. And I know that we're not in control of that, but if we can stay healthy and get these rotations ready for playoffs, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, looking forward to it for sure.
All right, man. Well, catch us next week, and please subscribe and follow. It really does help us out a lot. At this point, we'd love questions. We would love to answer fan questions. And go ahead and kick us a new guest. If you feel like there's someone that you'd like to hear from on the Rip City Real Talk, we will ask them real questions. We'll have fun with them. We'll break them out of their mold a little bit. So if there's someone that you want to recommend to us, let us know, and we'll reach out to them, see if we can book them for the podcast.
Yeah, we appreciate the support for sure. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're on all the social medias.
Yeah.
You guys have been great so far. Like I said, we'll try to work on getting the audio piece up for those who can't sit here and watch a YouTube video. It's a work in progress. We're trying to figure out the logistics of where we want to put the podcast on, and which you have recommendations, we're willing to take it. If it's Apple Music, Spotify, all that good stuff. So if anybody made it this far in the pod, give us your recommendations, and we will see you guys next week. We're really looking forward to it. Rip City Real Talk.
Peace.
Out.